Welcome to this week's special of Reel to Reel, where we're going to be talking about some horror classics to celebrate my favorite holiday, Halloween. I'm Jackie Hanna. Our main thriller today is the movie Freddy vs. Jason. This movie is about the two biggest icons of the slasher genre, Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. They return to terrorize the teenage population, but for this time, they're out to get each other. Before we get to that, let's tune in with Jason and Kenny as they talk about some movie news.
Welcome to the Hollywood Scoop. I'm Kenny McCumber, and with me as always, in honor of Chris and Jared reviewing Freddy vs. Jason, we decided to bring out our best costumes for the week.
This week we learned that Zombieland, a 2007 film starring Jesse Eisenberg, taking down zombies in the post-apocalyptic world, will be having a sequel because it was a complete success after attaining quadruple their budget in the box office. It looks like Ruben Fleischer will again direct this film to fix his past rocky few years in the business.
This week's Netflix stream of the week is Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn, the story of two criminals on the run who find refuge in a Mexican bar full of vampires. This movie has a lot to like. It has blood, vampires, Selma Hayek, Tarantino, George Clooney, and a codpiece gun. What's not to like?
This week's rundown, Iron Man 4 has been confirmed, but we still don't have a release date. Robert Downey Jr. has also confirmed Iron Man will appear in the next Captain America movie and will reprise the role.
On a completely different note, Adam Sandler recently signed a 4-movie deal with Netflix. I guess this is the new version of straight to video. And that is your rundown for this week.
Talking to town this week for all of our horror fans is the new film Ouija, spooking theaters October 24th. The film tells the story of a group of friends confronting their fears when they awaken the dark mysteries and powers of their Ouija board. Check out the trailer now.
As friends we've gathered, hearts are true. Spirits near we call to you. Can you show us a sign?
So do you think this film is going to be good?
I'm still up in the air about it. I'm always skeptical about horror movies coming out, especially this time of year. You're always worried about the money grab. But I do think the concept is interesting. Everybody's freaked out about a Ouija board, and making a movie about it, pretty good idea.
Yeah, I don't think there's many horror flicks about the Ouija board. And I'm very excited to see how they're going to do it. I mean, it's probably not going to be amazing because no horror movie is the best or that great. But I still think it's going to be a decent flick for Halloween season.
Definitely worth checking out this Halloween season. I mean, there aren't many other horror movies coming out around this time of year, so when you get one, you might as well check it out. That's all we have for the Hollywood Scoop. Back to you, Jack.
Thanks, guys. We'll be right back with the movie review of Freddy vs. Jason after this commercial break.
Have a lot of laundry? Using ordinary detergent? Switch to Arm & Hammer plus OxyClean. Fight stains like no other detergent. Arm & Hammer.
Welcome back to the show. Let's check out the movie review of Freddy vs. Jason with our favorite experts, Chris and Jared.
And thanks, Jackie. We are back in the theater for our Halloween episode, and this time we have the 2003 cult crossover, Freddy vs. Jason.
Yes, I'm very excited to dig into this film, mainly because this has been a franchise that's been in the making since 1988, when New Line Cinema and Paramount Pictures actually were trying to obtain the rights to Freddy and Jason into a film itself. It took them nearly 20 years, but we finally, in 2003, received Freddy vs. Jason. So, without further ado, let's dig into this film.
When I was alive, I might have been a little naughty, but after they killed me, I became something much, much worse. The stuff nightmares are made of. The children still feared me, and their fear gave me the power to invade their dreams. And that's when the fun really began. Until they figured out a way to forget about me, to erase me completely. Being dead wasn't a problem. for being forgot! Now that's a bitch!
You know, a very interesting thing about the flashbacks of the previous Nightmare on Elm Street movies is that it builds up the terror and the persona of Freddy itself.
Yeah, I think they rely on the fans' memories, and they know that they have a very cult following, so they include that at the beginning of the film, and I actually thought that that was one of the more interesting points of this movie.
And it establishes, just like the following of this movie, they know who their target audience is.
Exactly.
And I do appreciate when films do that.
Welcome to my nightmare.
Well, that scene felt kind of forced, you know? Like, that fight scene almost came out of thin air.
You know what, Chris? I'm going to be honest with you. It seems like a lot of, scenes in this movie are just out of thin air. I'm going to say they're very random at this point. The writing is just not there.
It's just that this fight scene, like you said, the writing is just all over the place. It's almost as if they forgot that they needed to have another scene where Freddy actually fights Jason, and they just threw it in at the end of the movie.
Terrible.
Ugh.
Welcome to my world, bitch!
Wow. Wow.
He winked.
I guess it's a draw. I mean,
This has to be one of the most unsatisfying endings to any movie that I've seen in a while. He winks.
now, on the production standpoint, it is very good marketing because they want to appeal to both Jason and Freddy fans. So that's why it was a draw.
Oh my God.
However, I did hear that the original ending of Freddy vs. Jason was actually that they end up going to hell. And Pinhead from Hellraiser films actually says, "Gentlemen, what seems to be the problem?" Do I feel like that's a more suiting ending than this? Particularly not, because it was no guarantee. However,
It's just, it's just so unsatisfying. And after sitting through almost nearly 90 minutes of this terrible movie, and to get that sort of ending from it, I think the one that you just said almost is light years above the one that we just witnessed.
well, that was Freddy vs. Jason. So, Chris, I'm going to start with your views. What did you like?
Not much. I think that they did bring up some interesting points at the start. I thought it was very exciting how it began, you know, have the classic Jason Voorhees chasing a girl through the woods. I thought Robert Englund's performance, always very good as Freddy Krueger. But other than that, it was all over the place for me. I mean, I wasn't entertained. I was more frustrated about what this movie could have become. Kelly Rowland, you could have took out all of her scenes and the movie wouldn't have changed at all.
I mean, come on, get real. You're not even scary. You're not even scary.
It just, the whole thing feels like a money grab, and I was thoroughly angry and frustrated by the end of this movie. Unfortunately, I have to give this a 1.5 out of 4. This was a disaster.
Well, Chris, I'm glad that you're being generous on this film compared to my review. I believe that this is vulgar filmmaking, to say the least. It's a very cookie-cutter plot. It's wasted potential for Robert Englund. It's a shame because he has so much fun in the role of Freddy itself.
He enjoys it. You can tell on his face.
But the actors and actresses within this movie, there's no character development.
Zero.
So these characters get picked off. There's no sense of, like, fear for their life. Or
emotional connection.
None at all. There's no investment in these characters, so when they die, it's just another body count, which I feel is a formula of the Friday the 13th films. Now, one thing that really is disappointing for fans is that this was a 20-year wait.
Oh,
And it was years in the making. So the fact that John Yu, the director of this movie, gave us this as the build-up, I'm going to have to say that Freddy vs. Jason is not worth the hype, which is why I'm giving it 1 out of 4.
that has been all for movie review. Unfortunately, the only thing that was scary in this movie was the fact that we wasted our time and money on it. I was Chris Horton.
I'm Jared Strand, and we'll be back after these commercial breaks. This is your brain. And that is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Now let's look behind the curtain this week. We talked to Film and Media Studies professor Dr. Lucia.
And we're here back again live with Dr. Lucia.
Hello again.
Hello again. So, because in honor of our Halloween special, we're going to be talking about horror. So, what are your views on horror films itself?
Well, I think horror films serve a certain function, and I think that function is to help people, work out their own deep fears. I think there's a way in which horror taps into subconscious fears. It taps into our sense of the uncanny, meaning that, somehow there are moments in reality where things seem unfamiliar, within a generally familiar world. I think horror films tap into that sort of both fear and desire. I think we kind of have a desire to be frightened to some degree because somehow that becomes a kind of cathartic experience.
Wonderful. And your favorite horror film itself?
My favorite horror film. I have to say it's not my favorite genre, but I do really like two versions of Nosferatu, which is actually of the vampire version.
From the 30s.
Well, one is even earlier, F.W. Murnau's silent version. And then in the 1970s, Werner Herzog, also a German filmmaker, did a remake. And they're both really wonderful films.
Nice. Well, thank you again, Dr. Lucia.
Thank you.
We'll take it back to you, Jackie.
Thanks for watching our Halloween special of Reel to Reel. We hope to see you next week when we talk about Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. I'm Jackie Hanna, and have a happy Halloween.